we're going to talk real quick about our USDA Dairy Business Innovations Initiative. And it does have phase 1 and 2 on here because we have 2 distinct phases, and there might be a phase 3 coming. So welcome to my life for the next 3.5 years, at least. The purpose of these initiatives are really to help diversify dairy product markets, to reduce risk and develop higher value uses for dairy products. So this kind of gets back to what we talked about earlier this morning, looking at where is the market trending, what are consumers buying, and how could some of our guys take advantage of that. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be doing it on your own farm. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be doing all of the parts. This could be you're wanting to do a plant. This could be you're wanting to contract with somebody else in your area. The key here is reduce risk and develop higher value uses for dairy products. The next key is promoting business development that diversifies farmer income, so focusing on y'all, through processing and marketing innovation. Again, that could be through a small scale, that could be a bunch of you together, that could even be working through some of our partners that already do this, whether it's DFA, whether it's Ford, whether it's SMI, as long as it's focusing on processing and marketing innovation and encouraging the use of regional milk production, it falls under the umbrella of this grant. Talk to me. Really? You were working. There we go. It's not clicking it hard enough. So as part of this project, we've developed several objectives that are already ongoing that a few of you have already been a part of. And the first one is this on-farm dairy business assessment, which is a fancy word for we're going to come out and talk to you about your dairy farm and your dairy processing, either what you're doing currently or what you're thinking about doing. Because that processing part is really important. It is focusing on the product, not just on the dairy farm. So I come out there and I bother you for a couple of hours with questions. We walk through your operation. And then if you're planning on starting a dairy processing operation, whether that is bottling milk, making cheese, making butter, we even talked about trying to make vodka from milk on one dairy, which was interesting, especially for me. So there's lots of things that we can talk through, but where are you at in the process? What are you really wanting to do? And how can we help you get there? And then we'll come back with you later. It may be a week, it may be a month, it may be a couple months if we see you before Christmas, because we all take a break for Christmas. But we will get back with you with our full team, which is me, our ag economists, some people from TBA, and then even people from hospitality and what's the other word? Retail services. That's the word I'm looking for. About what can we do to help you expand your dairy business and provide technical assistance to help you along that pathway. Now that might be looking at product development. That might be putting you in touch with someone who can do a business plan or a feasibility study. Or it might just be talking about what research we're currently doing and help direct you to some more resources for an earlier stage in planning. This is done through a confidential survey. I don't go out and say, hey, guess what? This person just told me about their operation. Here's all their financials. No, that's not how this works. So your stuff stays your stuff, but we will use the aggregated data to go in and try to make more resources for people who are thinking about doing this in the future. Because one of the big things that we've found from talking to a lot of y'all is that there's just not a whole lot out there. There's some information, but it's very hunt and peck. And a lot of it really isn't all that applicable to the Southeast, which we're used to, so it's okay, but we're working on creating those resources. So that's where some of that information is going. We've done 8 so far in 2020, well, I guess 8 in 2020, it's not 2020 anymore. And we're gonna hope to go back and revisit those same 8 and then expand it in 2021. So if this is something that's interesting to you, or if I've already come and done it on your farm, I will probably be calling you to come back and bother you again. But if you need it, here's my contact information. Not that y'all didn't already have it. The numbers haven't changed. My name's still the same. The email still works. So just get in touch with me and we'll set something up, COVID permitting. The next thing that we've been doing is educational sessions focused on understanding and managing risk associated with adding or expanding a dairy business. So part of that we did through some of our webinar Wednesdays last year. Some of that we did through our value-added workshop in December. And we're going to keep working on this in the future. Something that we're adding to this that I'll talk about a little bit more later is actually the dairy business gauge. So we're working with that group of ag economists to come out and look at the farm side aspect of it. And if you haven't already talked to Builderback about that, I highly encourage you to do it. It's also confidential. He comes out to the farm, spends a couple hours with you, and he goes through your financials. And that can be as simple as your Schedule F. but you have to file anyway, and goes through and looks at your farm on a per hundredweight basis. So what is your cost per hundredweight for antibiotics, for feed, for labor, and helps you figure out some places where we might be spending a little bit too much, maybe some places where we could invest something else, but really just help you understand your overall cost of production. And we're going to hope to do something similar like that for the farm business side as well. So whether that is an ice cream facility, a bottling plant, a cheese plant. So that's still what we're working on right now. And we're also doing some educational sessions focused on increasing awareness of educational and funding opportunities. So the big one in Tennessee is going to be our value added application. And I think most of you are on my email list. Yes, no, maybe. We're a sleep again list, that's fine. So if you haven't already gotten a copy of that application and you're either an existing dairy business or you're thinking about it, did you get a copy of my application, John?
No, ma'am.
Really?
Yes.
You and Mary Linda are both on my email list.
I wonder where it is.
I don't know. I'll send it to you again.
I've been looking for it.
I sent it. Okay. So the application period is open until February 15th. So we got plenty of time. It always gets read. I can hear you, John. So that application has gone out. I've already gotten some from a couple of you. Still waiting on a couple of you that I know are coming. I'm not leaving it open any longer than it says. So keep that in mind. People around the back row. So our workshops and our webinars and then our email list. So if you're not a part of Tennessee Dairy Discuss, I highly encourage you tell me that you want to put your email on Tennessee Dairy Discuss. If you absolutely refuse to get emails from me, at least give me your phone number so I can call you and tell you that these things are coming and mail you a hard copy. And then there's also a value-added dairy listserv, but that goes through Center for Profitable Agriculture. So if you want to be on that list, let me know, and I'll let Hal know, and then he'll put you on.
There's no result plan right here.
I don't know. I said I will send it to you again. I'll send it to the whole listserv again before the end of the day, which may be like 10. Huh?
You're the reason I came.
Aw, I love being the reason people show up. It just makes my day. All right. Another thing that we are doing are these product innovation projects. There are a limited number of those being done per year, and turnaround has been slow. Yes, Brian, I see the face. So what we can do here is we actually partner with the food science department and some of their capstone classes. So those students will work with a dairy farmer and figure out, or a processor, and figure out what kind of product you're interested in. And then they'll do a lot of the background. So they'll come up with a concept and the preferred product category. So if you're doing cheese, maybe it's a novel cheese product. If it's ice cream, maybe it's a different way to package that ice cream. So maybe it's small single serving cups instead of pints or quarts or whatever like that. They'll draft a food safety plan. So that's kind of at least started for you. And then they'll look at processing parameters and sample product prototypes for you to evaluate. And I think they're also doing some stuff with sensory panels. So they'll actually test it out through the sensory lab as well. So you'll have a lot of that background already done. And the main contact for that is going to be Mark Morgan, which I think several of you know. But if he doesn't answer, let me know and I'll go hunt him down and make sure he gets back to you. So the thing that a lot of you are interested in, this sub-award program, and I'll actually bring this up here in a second. This is a list of things that can be purchased or applied for with this sub-award. So feasibility studies are a big one, business plans, marketing plans, certain marketing or promotional activities or materials, and we say certain because there are some things that the grant just won't let us put on here, and then specialty equipment. So no surprise, anything for dairy processing is almost always specialty equipment. So most of that stuff is covered. And there's a couple links on here, and I'll just click on one real fast. And hopefully it comes up on the screen. Nope, of course not, but I'll throw it over here anyway. All right, we just finished updating our website also. So what I'm going to show you is our program tab. And here's all the stuff for value added. So this is where we're going to start putting anything related to this grant over the next 3 to 4 years. So we'll start populating resources on here, whether it's some getting started kind of information, whether it's contacts across Tennessee, North Carolina, and Kentucky to get in touch with if you're looking for people to do plans, if you're looking for people to do feasibility studies, all that stuff's gonna go here. And right now, most of our site is focused on the subaward application. So this button right here will take you to it. And I believe it's an 18-page document. The first 8 pages is instructions, so it's only 10 pages. And then right down here, you can see the general information for the grant. So what do you have to do to be eligible? And then some overall FAQs, which hopefully will help knock that down pretty quickly as far as the list of things that you can apply for. And then it's also available on TDA's site as well under their business development tab. But I will send a hard copy application out to all of you as well. So some things to keep in mind for this round, right? Not all rounds will be created equal. For phase 1, the one that's just Tennessee, it's a $25,000 maximum per application. You could put part of a piece of equipment on here. You could put a feasibility study on here. You could put training on here, but we cannot go above $25,000 maximum on the first round. There will be additional rounds, which may have a higher limit. It just kind of depends on what y'all put applications in for this time and what kind of things you tell me you would like to see available in the future. So if there's something that costs much more than this, let me know what kind of things you're looking for so we can be thinking about that from the grant administration side, not just passing it down to you, because we want this to be useful. So most of you have my phone number. Call me, talk to me about it, we'll get it figured out. Only a single application is eligible per dairy business entity per round. So the reason I'm saying per round of funding is if we only get 5 applications this time and there's extra money left, we'll open it up again. There'll be another round of funding after that because we have the larger amount of funds. There might be another round of funding after that. So you can keep applying even if you've been successful once, but you have to keep applying. We can't take multiples at a time. This is a reimbursement subaward program. So absolutely do not purchase anything before you've been approved because then we can't reimburse you for it. So wait till you get approval and then go ahead and purchase. Equipment is eligible, but it must be approved by TDA before purchase, and approval must be submitted to the subaward committee. So if there is a pasteurizer you want to go purchase, if there's a cheese table you want to go purchase, I don't know why it's doing that. If there's some equipment that needs to be certified by TDA, go bother those 2 guys in the back first and make sure that they'll approve it before y'all come to us.
That would be Danny Weather.
That would be the Dannies, yes. Any of the Dannies, bother the Dannies. There are some ineligible products. So no real estate purchases, no summer homes, guys, sorry. Repayment of loans or mortgages, rent or contract payments for time periods extending beyond the 12-month period allowed for eligible projects. So if you have to pay for it over 3 years, we can't put that on this grant. Legal fees, lobbying, fundraising, or other political activities. It's a list of things that you cannot put on here. No, Stan, I can't pay you. Can't afford you, can't pay you. All right, continuation of DBII. So that was phase 1. There is a phase 2. Phase 2 is larger. Phase 1 was around 454,000. Phase 2 is around 6.1 million. So much larger. But with this larger round of funding, we're going across 3 states. So it's us, Kentucky, and North Carolina, the people we tend to partner with anyway. So as part of this, we're working with KDDC. Did H already leave? All right, fine, H left. So we're partnering with KDDC, which we already work with anyway, the University of Kentucky and North Carolina State University to continue going through these programs. We're going to start doing some consumer preference and willingness to pay surveys. We're actually working on these right now. And the first round is going to be on milk, so fluid milk. Next round will be on cheese. Third round will be on ice cream. And that's covering the 3 states. So we're asking questions like, what are you looking for in a farmstead product? How often do you buy them? How much would you be willing to pay for them? And asking some general questions about what would they buy at the store if it wasn't farmstead. So we're hoping this will be really helpful to all of you moving forward and really help us develop some more of those feasibility studies for all of you. So what are our consumers looking for and what can we provide? The Dairy Gauge program, I kind of already talked about, spilled the beans on that one. The other thing is we're doing this across all 3 states. So I know quite a few of you have already worked with David. David's going to be doing a lot of traveling. So that's part of what we're partnering with Kentucky and North Carolina on, is providing experts from both of their land grant institutions to continue this work. We're also providing short courses through Penn State tailored toward each state, and they'll be doing ones on, I believe it is cheese and ice cream are the short courses that they're doing. And if you're involved in this program, so if you've successfully submitted an application, if you've been coming to all of our meetings, we do have a limited number of vouchers for you to take those for free. So, but it is first come, first serve, but we are working on those as well. And then we're also trying to create a tool for potential or existing businesses that can be used to estimate costs and equipment needs, and kind of sizing things to your herd. So if you put in, I have 40 Holsteins, they produce on average 80 pounds a day. What size equipment do I need? How much yield could I get? How much is it going to cost me? And then maybe be able to query that and say, how much should I charge, depending on which project you're looking at. And this is going to be built based on those numbers that we get from coming out and talking to you. So it will be built on realistic numbers from our area. We're also doing rotating workshops across Tennessee, Kentucky, and North Carolina. So we had to do the last one virtually. That was the one in December. The next one is going to be June 23rd and 24th, but that's actually going to be in Kentucky. So we're partnering with KDDC to get that up off the ground and still figuring out what that agenda is going to look like. That'll be the next one. Hopefully it'll be in person. I can't promise anything, but hopefully it will be in person. All right, now, all right. So for the subaward program, this is actually going to be administered through Dairy Extension. The Tennessee Department of Agriculture is actually helping us with the subaward for the first round of funding. So the one that's open right now, they're facilitating all of that. And we really appreciate it because it's a lot of work. So we're very, very grateful for them. But the second round of funding, and probably the third if we get it, will be going through Dairy Extension. So we'll be going through our offices. And that's going to be up to 3.15 million. We are working on this application right now with consultation to Kentucky and North Carolina. And depending on what kind of feedback we get on this first round of funding, we're also talking to the group in Wisconsin and Vermont that also received this, trying to figure out what are some of the breakpoints that we need to do for these grants. Can we do a higher maximum? Do we need to have a couple different rounds of the grant with different levels? So that's where y'all come in. If you know that there's an average cost for pieces of equipment that you need, let me know. I need to know. Same overall thing, new or existing dairy businesses, same overall focus, value chain and commodity innovation, facility and process updates, product development, packaging and marketing of dairy products. I just showed you all the value added dairy page on UT Dairy. And we're hoping that that's going to be similar to what UT Dairy has been for all of our dairy stuff, just focused on value added. So our one-stop dairy shop. And we're also going to start trying to expand our programming to provide resources for some small ruminant producer processors, because I get a lot of questions about that. And there aren't really a whole lot of answers out there. So Jesse and I are going to start working on that too. It's probably important to note that you do not have to be a dairy producer to apply for these funds. The focus is on creating a dairy processed product. So someone who is currently doing a winery that might want to add ice cream or might want to partner with a dairy to create cheese could apply for these funds as well. Wow, I must have answered all of your questions. He's all being awfully quiet. All right, well, I don't see anything on the chat either. So I'll bump over real quick, and just in case you need these, hopefully everybody's written it down already. Of course, I clicked off of it. Let's do it this way. You can steal the clicker from myself. All right. So if you have any questions after this meeting, or you're looking for people to contact for the program, I'm the primary contact. If you've already been talking to Hal, you are welcome to reach out to Hal. He and I are in pretty constant contact with us as well. Or you can talk to Kyle Hensley over at TDA. So if you're interested at all, these are the people to get in touch with. All right. So the other thing that I'm in charge of today is giving y'all an update on what's been going on in our recs. So for the Little River Dairy area, the main thing that they've been working on for the past year, I think it's probably just been this past year. I don't know how this is going to look up there. They have been working on genomic testing every heifer that is born into the dairy. And they are hoping to start working with our new genomic center to create some Tennessee indices for that. None of that data is published. That's still in a very new stage, but hopefully we'll have some information to tell you more about next year, what those indices look like and what those genomic tests are telling us. The other thing that's happening right now at Little River is they are doing a study with feeding transition milk instead of dumping it, actually capturing it and then feeding it back to the calf from that dam to see if there are any rate of gain improvements, if there's any immune improvements. Again, that's still really new. We don't have any information on that yet, but that is also happening. And then out at MTREC, this is some of the most interesting stuff. And I'm sorry that that's so small. The gist of this is Dr. Renata Nave Oaks has been doing some studies with something called living mulch. So she is actively planting different cover crop strains in with corn silage and in with grain corn. And she's trying to see if we can get away from adding additional fertilizer and if it does anything to weed pressure. So the two things that she's doing, or that they've done so far, is white clover. And then the other one is crimson clover with cereal rye. So the WC is white clover, the CCR is cereal rye, and then the control is obviously nothing. And I apologize that this is so small, but one of the coolest things is we're actually seeing rate of gains, and I'm gonna have to look on my screen because that's just too tiny, y'all. So, actually wondering if I can just share this and it'll be a little bit easier to see. All right, let's make that bigger. Okay, we're just gonna do it this way. So you can see that their corn production is actually highest with the white clover cover, and it's a little bit lower with the crimson clover and the ryegrass. But they are higher yields in tons per hectare than the control. So sorry guys, I did not actually convert that over to tons per acre before this meeting, but I think this graph is a pretty clear indication that white clover is doing a good job at helping that corn silage actually grow. And I believe, yeah, so this is our silage corn, and this is our grain corn. We're seeing a little bit more tonnage on the grain corn than the silage corn, but they're both outperforming the other cover crops. This other graph to the side is actually a little bit misleading because it makes it look like there's higher forage accumulation in the crimson clover rye cover, but actually most of this was weeds. So it had a higher forage amount, forage tonnage, but a lot more of it was actual weed pressure. So even though the white clover looks like it has less forage accumulation, it actually anecdotally did a really good job of suppressing weed growth. When I talked to Kevin earlier this week, he said it kept Palmer amaranth from growing in his corn, which I thought was amazing, and told him that if they figured out a way to keep Palmer amaranth from growing, that that was a really good thing. So the white clover one, I think is pretty interesting. I'm gonna have Renata and her grad student come in probably in May, June, and do our webinar Wednesday for the month. So if you wanna hear more about it, definitely tune back in then, because I'll have the experts talking about it, not just me parroting what they've told me. It might be in her materials and methods. So it's not on here, but I'm sure they'll tell us on the next one and I can find out, Steve, but it's not currently on here unless she has it in this other set of slides. The other thing that they've been doing is actually grazing animals on the cover crop afterwards. And I don't think she's got it in any of these. Yeah. So the first thing that they're doing is looking at the living mulch benefits on the corn, silage, and grain themselves. The next thing that they're doing is looking at the potential of grazing whatever is left in between corn growing seasons. So taking more full advantage of that area. And I don't think the seeding rate's on here either, but we can at least go. No, it's not. Nope. Okay. To do backwards, y'all. Okay, so this is looking at animal live weights that are actually grazing these fields in between corn rotations. So on the left side is going to be grain corn. On the right side is going to be silage corn. The grain corn, it looks like they actually pick up a little bit more gain on the grain corn, but they haven't really analyzed any of this. This is also preliminary, so take all that with a grain of salt. But what you're seeing here is this lighter one is actually the crimson clover rye. The darker one is the white clover. And this arrow right here on all of this line on all of them is actually the forage mass. So you can see on both of the crimson clover charts, the forage mass actually decreases over time. On the white clover treatments, the forage mass is actually increasing. So the animals are having a high rate of gain, or at least high average weight, or normal average weight, and that forage mass is still increasing. So that white clover is offering what looks like better grazing and offering what looks like better benefits for either corn, silage, or grain corn. And I cannot wait to have them present more about this because I think it's really interesting. But this is the main thing going on in MTREC right now that's dairy related. Yes, Steve, I see the question face. What's the question?
Waiting for the seed rate.
I will find out for you. Anything else you want to update us on, Dr. Shin? There's Barry. You have anything else you want to talk about for the centers?
No, I think, part of the then John also mentioned that, his body trials also covered all of these.
Yes, his nitrogen trials were done at both of these recs and some other ones, I believe.
Yep.
Which other recs were the nitrogen trials done on? Do y'all know?
E-Track, Knoxville, Albion and Springfield, Plateau and Crossville, somebody else.
So almost all the recs
Yeah.
covering the state. Awesome. All right, take it away.